After 20 years of marriage, I am divorcing my wife because she slept with many men behind my back while we were in college. My wife, 44, and I, 40, got married 20 years ago at 3 a.m. We began dating in high school when I was a junior and she a senior. We were long-distance students for our first 2 years of college while I was in high school, and we also attended community college for 1 year. We then attended college in the same city for a year and have lived together ever since we married the summer after I finished from college. So far, our marriage has been quite well, but I filed for divorce after discovering that she had been sleeping with multiple guys during the 2 years we were apart. We met up with a few of her college buddies just after Christmas to catch up, eat dinner, and chill out. We discussed a variety of topics, and my wife stated that we met in high school. Not that we were dating, it's only that we met. Her former college roommate observed that it was crazy. We met in high school, had some crazy years in college, and then ended up together. I joined in and joked that I didn't know if my wife was as wild as I was. The roommate began to narrate a story, but my wife interrupted her and expressed discomfort. I realized something was wrong, so I explained that we had started dating in high school and had been together throughout my wife's college career. All of my wife's friends became quite quiet, and the remainder of the supper was unpleasant on the way out. One of her other roommates approached me and suggested we have an open chat about what occurred in college. I asked my wife on the way home, and she kind of brushed me off. I told her it was critical that she be honest with me, but she responded it didn't matter. When we arrived home, I informed her I was going to remain at my brother's place until she was ready to discuss what occurred in college. The next day, she came over and admitted to having slept with multiple men throughout her first 2 years in college. She stated she didn't think it was a big deal at the time because we were far apart, and she didn't think a high school romance would continue. I probed for additional information, and she revealed it was at least 10 different men, 3 of whom she introduced to me as acquaintances when I visited on weekends. She was still in contact with one guy. I informed her that I wanted a divorce and would begin the papers as soon as possible, which I did on January 2nd. Her family, as well as the majority of my family, advises me not to end my marriage because of a few faults. I've held firm in my conviction that cheating on me with several men for years is wrong, no matter what transpired, and the fact that she continued to have connections with these guys in front of me was an unforgivable level of contempt. We have 2 children, but they are 17 and 19, and I believe they will understand why I am ending the marriage. Is it wrong for me to leave? The number of individuals telling me to ignore years of infidelity and decades of falsehoods is driving me insane. Edit. Holy crap, I'm glad I did this with a throwaway since the response here was unexpected. I certainly can't respond to every question or comment, but I wanted to share some information for typical ones. I submitted this since my wife and a few others have said that sleeping with other people is normal in long-distance relationships, and I'm somewhat of the odd one out for not sleeping. I felt as if I was being gaslit, but I needed an outside perspective. We reside in a state where there is a waiting period to finalize a divorce, so I thought it would be a good idea to obtain some perspective before things were finalized. Following these comments, I observe a small number of people claiming it's acceptable to sleep around during a long-distance relationship, but they appear to be a big minority. During our 2 years of college, we only saw each other on a handful of weekends every month. I lived around 3 hours away from her college, which was a considerable distance but not cross-country. We did not go months without seeing each other. The 3 males I met when she was in college were introduced at parties. I honestly don't know if these guys knew anything about me being a boyfriend because it wasn't brought up. We're still in contact with one guy who married a college acquaintance. This isn't some dude. She covertly sends texts on the side. We've been communicating with this person on a regular basis for several years. I've spoken with him several times since finding out about my wife. He claimed he didn't realize we were dating at the time and has since blocked my wife on social media. Some people have wondered how the roommates missed the fact that the time frames did not work out at our wedding. The main reason is that my wife and I held a tiny ceremony in Texas with only close family members, then returned to the East Coast to throw a big party with friends. The customary receptions list included information about how we met. Because nothing happened, her housemates were unaware that we had been dating before to college. It appears that they assumed we were just dating for a year. We were both in the same city and later moved in together. I was open to treatment or attempting to restore the marriage, but she insisted that this was all normal. And being the one who was out of line is simply too much for me. The only time she expressed regret or even sought to reconcile was when I began submitting paperwork in the last week. She's back to saying she's correct, and I'm overreacting. This is also why I feel like I am being gaslight. It appears that this is a serious issue, but my wife and others have told me that it is typical and that I am overreacting. I am not going to get a paternity test unless my children desire one. I have no doubts that they are biologically mine, and no test will prove otherwise. I adore them more than anything in the world, and my wife's infidelity will not change that, even if one or both of them are not biologically mine. They've been my children for 19 years, and they will remain until I die. This is the final edit. Hello, everyone. I've been going through a lot of the responses, but things are getting insane and increasingly unhinged, so I won't be checking in much more. Here are some more responses to typical inquiries I've seen. We were absolutely dating exclusively at the time. 2 years ago, dating culture was very different, and exclusivity was pretty much the norm for most people. Second, before she departed for college, we had a lengthy and painful talk about how to continue the relationship long distance. She was determined to stay together and joked about her father coming after me if I started sleeping with females at school. Finally, she was unable to attend my senior prom and was really offended when I offered attending with a platonic female friend of mine. As a result, I decided to skip prom in favor of spending time with her. While we never used the word exclusive, I believe the preceding reasons, together with the whole relationship before she went, are sufficient to establish exclusivity, based on comments here. I followed up with a friend who suggested we have an honest chat. She informed me that 10 guys would be a low estimate and that her main concern was that there was at least one pregnancy scare that I was unaware of. I don't think that changes much. For me, the quantity is less important than the fact that she seemed incapable of realizing why this was wrong or why I feel deceived. Thank you for all of your helpful responses. Even if you disagree, I am still open to therapy if she is ready, but I honestly believe it would be more about us becoming successful co-parents and finding closure than preserving our marriage. More information about whether the wife is willing to work to mend the marriage. It would make a big difference if I believe she wanted to fix things. Throughout our discussion about it, she continuously rejected my feelings, telling me that I was overreacting to perfectly typical conduct. She showed no remorse or concern for how it had impacted me until she knew I was serious about divorce. She became defensive and angry. She did not offer to help until I began the paperwork and informed her that I had hired a lawyer. I believe we can handle being parents. Our children are older, and I've been saving money for college and post-secondary school for a long time. As a result, the majority of custody and monetary disputes that arise should be minor. We're also financially secure and make a nice living from the timing of everything. I have engaged a lawyer. He created a separation agreement and mailed her a certified copy. As far as I know, there is not a legal divorce document filed with the state, but rather a step in the process to ensure that she has the option of hiring her own lawyer if she wishes to fight. The actual divorce will most likely take several months. I'm not completely moved out. I've been staying at my brother's apartment while I look into more permanent housing options. In terms of timing, the meal occurred on the 26th. I went to my brother's house that night to relax and give her time to think. We spoke multiple times over the period of 4 to 5 days, and she made it obvious that she did not believe she had done anything wrong. If she had any guilt, regret, or basic concern for my sentiments, I would have waited. However, she did not. So I found a divorce lawyer who had boilerplate intent to separate agreements that we completed and sent over the same day. Even now, we're clearly not legally divorced, and I'm not sure if there is a legal idea of separation in my state. But I've made it known that this is happening and begun the process. Update, February 5, 2024. I wanted to give some updates since my first post gained a lot of interest. First, let me talk about what I learned about the subject in college. After speaking with my wife in sessions and emailing with 2 of her roommates, it was evident that her roommates were aware of anything going on at college. They believed the case was unusual and likely involved cheating. My wife had told them that had some crazy moments in college and sorted it out before we married, so they never mentioned it. The roommate who just approached me was concerned that my wife had not discussed the situation with me and wanted me to know, as far as getting introduced to the guy she slept with. Apparently, that was not intended for one of the guys he ended up dating and later marrying one of our mutual acquaintances in college. This is the guy she had touch with in previous situations. She originally blamed me during the counseling session, but has now admitted that it was horrible. When I went to see her, she had planned to hang out in the room or just hang out together alone. However, I wanted to attend a few parties because I didn't have many in high school or community college. She didn't expect to meet the boys, but they were at the gatherings and she felt she didn't have much option. I still think this is sort of creepy, but it's not as awful as her purposefully parading me in front of the males. The most of our therapy session has been spent discussing why I think it's a huge concern and she does not. She initially stated that none of these guys were in relationships with her and that they were largely one-night stands or FWB, so she didn't see the big deal. These are her words, not my own. My opinion is that we never indicated it was alright, and she aggressively discouraged me from doing so. After 2 sessions of investigation and discussions with various friends, my wife now agrees that it was a breach of our trust and relationship. This shared understanding has allowed us to talk about the matter more honestly and move from arguing to talking, which is why I am positive about co-parenting now. Here's why I'm completely committed to divorce. 2 things happened that made me want to quit the marriage. First, around 10 years ago, we went through a very difficult time and had a dead bedroom for about 2 years. She mentioned that our sex life was becoming dull, so I tried to liven things up. Nothing crazy, just role-playing and enjoying Spencer's gift-level sex toys. Apparently, she had some sexual experiences in college that she is not comfortable discussing and wanted me to try, but when I did, she felt uneasy and bad since she was thinking about other men while she was with me. The fact that she claims these encounters were insignificant but yet have an impact on our marriage suggests they meant more than she wants to admit. Second, she stated that she had been flirting with coworkers during business travels since the pandemic stopped. She maintains she's never slept with anyone, but she did go on a date with one of her male coworkers. That was the ultimate deal breaker for me. We've told our children that we're getting divorced. We explained that we were having difficulty moving on because of some bad judgments we made in college. My 19-year-old son, who attends college. I was asked if I had cheated on my wife while she was away at college. My wife was shaken up, but she revealed to the children that she was the one who cheated. We have agreed not to disclose any extra information with the children. I emphasize that both of us will be there for the kids and that we are in therapy to ensure that we handle this in the best way possible for the family. I also told the kids that if they wanted to talk about it with any of us or a professional, I would be completely supportive. We began consulting with a mediator about how to proceed with the divorce, and unless something changes, we should be able to have an amicable divorce. We're both financially secure on our own. We have no substantial obligations, and our children are older, so custody isn't a big deal. This has been a difficult couple of months for me, but I'm doing well now, and I honestly appreciate that my last post went viral because it confirmed some of my thoughts while also motivating me to seek treatment with my wife. Comments where the OP has responded to historical PI 5052. Sorry OP, but this is for the best. She has been keeping you in the dark for more than 20 years. She maintains she's never slept with anyone, but she did go on a date with one of her male co-workers. If you believe this, I've got a bridge on Mars for sale. Dead bedrooms for young couples frequently indicate that someone is moving on. Who? I don't believe it, but I don't think it's worthwhile to investigate further. I'm going to get an STD panel to make sure I'm safe, but I don't need to know anymore. We'd get divorced if it had just been a date. If it was more, we'd still be getting divorced, so pushing the matter will only make it more difficult for us to co-parent. I am also very certain that she was cheating during our dead bedroom predicament. We used to have sex once every 2 to 3 months, and now we have it twice or 3 times a week. I have enough information to realize that it is time to move on, and digging deeper will just complicate the divorce. No. 1_ Subtract 7,777,777. Has she ever apologized for anything she put you through, especially the part when she went on a date with this asshole both before our counseling and at the first meeting? She did not apologize on the second appointment. The goal was for me to convey how it affected me. Since that session, she has expressed regret and apologized several times. Too little, too late, but she isn't an emotionless monster. Even more fugly. 13. I'm very curious to hear what sexual things she was fixated on from her past, but felt uncomfortable doing with you. That alone appears to be pretty red flag crap. I didn't want to get into it too much. Just before the dead bedroom crap happened, she wanted to explore with new things in the bedroom. It was largely BDSM, which was a little more extreme than I was comfortable with at the moment. 50 Shades was popular, and she became interested in other smutty reading material. I ascribe the shift in sex to that, but I believe some of the people she dated in college were into BDSM stuff. Perhaps it was a mix of the two. She hasn't acknowledged to straying during that period, but I'm ready to assume the dead bedroom at home was because she found someone else to do kinky crap with, when questioned why his daughter thought he cheated. To be fair, my 19-year-old daughter had some problems with shady partners who either cheated or dumped her abruptly to be with someone else. I'm also the person that left the house, given her history with men and the fact that I am the one who has left the house. That makes sense. When the topic of cheating arose, that was her first thought. To be honest, my wife clearly stated that she was the one who cheated. I'm not particularly concerned about the narrative here. From what I can see, she hasn't made any negative remarks about me to our children. Furthermore, given her admission of recent flirting and adultery, as well as the fact that she is prepared to file for a mutual amicable divorce after 6 weeks and 3 counseling sessions, I believe she was ready to move on before I was. It simplifies the logistics of the divorce, but it stings to understand she's having an easier time walking away from a 20-year marriage than me. Boop. When asked not to be surprised if she starts dating again, I believe she is already looking. We've had one conference with an equitable divorce mediator, and she expressly mentioned that we are married until the divorce is finalized and any adultery committed before that date may endanger the amicable divorce settlement. It seems silly to me because we're being divorced due to infidelity, but when it came up, I was clearly grumpy. I also imagine that the fact that I am residing in the guest room isn't boosting her chances at the end of the day. I'm doing my best to accept that our marriage is gone and I've been going to therapy by myself. In addition to our couple's treatment, I'm mentally prepared for the possibility of seeing the coworker she only recently dated again, but I'm also hoping that I'll be able to find a place and prepare to move out before the divorce is completed. If all goes well and we can work out a plan with a mediator, we'll be divorced by the summer. I'll be in my own house, and she can date whichever coworker she wants. Now on to the next story. Refusing to purchase my entitled daughter's dream automobile after she gave her number to the man who humiliated me, my wife has decided to leave me. So to celebrate my daughter's 23rd birthday, my wife and I went to the zoo with our 2 children. We were having a good time when leaving an enclosure. Some woman cut us off and surged in front of us to be the first out. She didn't touch us, which wasn't a big thing, but it was a little annoying. And I answered, "There's no need to push a headlock." She reacted with something like, "How did I push through? It's not like Teresa Q. I just had it and decided it wasn't worth it." But then there was this huge person who appeared to be her son. I didn't realize it because they looked so different. The issue was why he was mixed, not that it really matters. I asked her, "Does anyone have an issue?" She then pointed me out. Her son then turned around and began antagonizing me for no apparent reason, ordering me to keep my comments to myself. I was referred to as a bitch, Karen. He kept calling me tiny, claiming I had little man syndrome, just extremely bizarre stuff for what I thought was a harmless remark. For some reason, my 22-year-old daughter felt compelled to defend this guy and began saying things like, "Why are you like this? Why do you feel the need to say anything?" Then I started apologizing to the guy and agreeing with him that I am Karen. This definitely surprised me. The guy then asks her age, which she tells him, and he asks for her phone number, which she gives him. He passes her his phone and she punches in her number the entire time. This guy looks at me with a shit-eating grin on his face. When my daughter returns to us, I wonder, what the hell was that? And she merely asks, what? He's cute, but you need to be put in your place every once in a while. I replied, since that is what she believes. She can have her own car for her birthday. She plainly believed I wasn't serious when she asked if we could look at automobiles, and I told her she could look for herself because I wasn't paying for it yet. My kid has taken my side, claiming she was out of line, while my wife believes it is not worth losing my connection with her. If not gifting her a car as a punishment is enough to break her relationship with me, I believe I spoiled her too much. She already owns a car that I bought for her 2 years ago and it runs perfectly, so I'm not exactly depriving her either. I'm now at work on my lunch break, so I can't really respond. I reviewed the comments and will respond to a few that I believe are pertinent. I purchased her a runaround Fiat 500 2 years ago, second-hand. It's in good condition, although it's not the nicest car. I promised my daughter an Audi because my son is traveling for his 21st birthday, which I am paying for. She wanted a car that was around the same price. She does not reside at home. She hasn't since she left home for university at the age of 18. I don't consider myself a Karen, but I'm not afraid to speak up and complain when I feel the need. If individuals are impolite or something does not meet my standards, I will gladly speak out. I couldn't beat up the 6'4" or whatever 20-something-year-old who was mouthing off to me. I am 47 years old, have been working in an office for the past 20 to 30 years and have a poor back. This is the second post. This post is dated January 24, 2024. So I got home about an hour ago and my wife called me into the room to discuss. She handed me an ultimatum. She remarked, I can either swallow my pride and buy the car for my daughter or she will buy it with her own money. My wife earns less than I do, but she has a good job and can afford it. She stated that everyone is sick of my public demeanor and that every time we go out, I get into an argument or disagreement with someone over some trivial thing. I believe this is an exaggeration, but my wife showed me emails from my daughter asking if she could go out with only my wife, because I usually do something to disgrace everyone. My wife objected and defended me, stating that is not true. That is why when I got into that disagreement, my wife said nothing about my daughter's behavior. She stated she wouldn't penalize my daughter because I couldn't keep my mouth quiet, especially after my daughter claimed she didn't want me there because something like this might happen. And she supported me only to be made appear foolish. She claims that my daughter barely likes me as it is, and that if I continue to do so, I should not be surprised if she quits speaking to me entirely. I asked my wife if all I am to my daughter is a piggyback, and she ordered me to stop acting like the victim. She said, it's up to me what I do with my money. But my daughter will receive the automobile anyhow, so I can either make her resent me for no reason or swallow my pride and get her the car myself. I don't know where to go from here. The third post, posted on January 25, 2024. Sorry for not responding more fully. Yesterday was an eventful day. After everything, I invited my daughter over because I wanted to talk about everything. My wife advised me to let it go, but it was evident that everyone had an issue with me that I was unaware of, so I wanted to find out what was going on. So I waited for my son to be home, and my daughter drove around later. We sat down together and decided to discuss. I began by doing what many of you suggested, asking for actual instances rather than taking their word for it. To be honest, much of it sounded ludicrous. The fact that I returned a steak twice because it was undercooked, as if it's a crime to demand a properly cooked 180-pound steak. The fact that I battled with someone who sat in our designated seats in a movie theater, despite the fact that it was almost empty again, as if wanting to sit in the seat I paid for is a crime. There are dozens of other locations for these individuals to sit, as well as other equally dumb things that I can't be bothered to delve into and don't even remember because of their insignificance, despite my belief that it was all ludicrous. I stated I'd do my best to be a meek pushover in public, if it was the only way to make them like me, and I'd get the car provided my daughter didn't text the guy who mistreated me. I asked to check at her messages, but she stated not to bother because she had texted him, and I had no right to restrict who she talked to. That's true, but I have the right to spend my money as I want, and I'm not acquiring a car for my kid. She has one that works properly. Even if I'm an ass in a situation where her family is being attacked, she sided with the aggressor and then doubled down on it, and this is unforgivable. My daughter yelled at me, calling me a petty little pig-headed man with a Napoleon complex, and said that all the money in the world wouldn't stop me from being a fucking loser. I agreed because the guy who screams at old man is such a winner, and she yelled at me that I am not a victim. And then something about how cathartic it was to have someone stand up to me, and how the moment he did, she saw me shrink back into the little bitch I'd always been growing up. This was the final straw. I begged her to leave, but she insisted that I told them about me being bullied as a child, which is why I'm the way I am now. My wife's face as pale as a ghost when she heard this comment. This is something I told her in private. Clearly, this is why my daughter lost respect for me. Obviously, I was not cool enough for her or something. I was just speechless. But my daughter went on. She continued, make a true pledge to Jake. You can still travel to Cambodia and ask him what he truly believes. I just do not get it. Her brother begged not to be placed in the middle of this, but I persisted. All he replied was, sometimes you can be a little much, Dad. My daughter called him a pussy and then walked away. My son dashed off to his room and my wife sped away after my daughter. She didn't return last night. I have not heard from my wife or daughter since I called out of work. My son left for university without speaking to me. I barely slept. I cannot believe it. I am a cliché, a wealthy elderly man whose family despises him. If I was lost before, I'm now completely bewildered as to what I'm expected to do. Fourth and last post. Posted on February 4, 2024. Everyone has been asking for an update, and here it is. However, there isn't much to tell. Since my daughter departed, she has blocked me everywhere. I went to reach out, but she prevented me. Since then, I have not heard anything. My wife is staying with her parents and refuses to return home unless I agree to individual and family therapy, which I continue to refuse since I believe it is a waste of time. I understand myself and my psyche. So what? I like to whine occasionally, but it does not make me mentally ill. My son and I believe, are the most significant updates. We're having a major disagreement. He accuses me of pulling the family apart by being stubborn. He claims to have driven away both his daughter and his wife, and I'm going to drive him away too unless I strive to make things right with everyone. He is mostly upset with me because I refused my wife's request to go to therapy. He is still living at home because it is near his university, but he warns that if I don't try to make everything right by the time he finishes, he'll depart without looking back. It turns out his sister labeled him a pussy because he agreed with her more than he admits. He claims that I am a bully, that I bully and belittle people in public and then play the victim if anyone calls me out on it. He claims that I am disrespectful to everyone I encounter, including those at home. He claims that I prioritize my money over others and that if someone disagrees with whatever I do, I take it away. He claimed that my daughter hasn't liked me since she was 16 and has always shown a desire to leave me. He claimed she never anticipated me to get the automobile since she knew I'd take it away the first time she did something I didn't like. It appears that the entire event was a test. She had made it clear to everyone that if I did indeed seize the automobile at the last second, she intended to never talk with me again. My youngster was already aware of this. My wife was already aware of this. That's why my wife insisted on me acquiring a car for my daughter. That's why my daughter was so angry when I didn't get it since she saw it as the end of the connection. He also stated that my wife had defended me for many years, that she did not break my confidence but rather gave him and his sister the narrative of my upbringing in order to persuade them not to hate me. He stated, my daughter has openly stated that she should leave me for years and my wife has always told her off for that. But now I've pushed her away too. He stated that he never imagined she'd leave me, but he's proud of her for standing up to me. Finally, he stated that he doesn't mind if I take away his birthday trip, but he does want me to fix the family, and that is more important than a holiday. I've chosen not to take away his vacation because it would probably simply give them more ammunition against me, but I'm also not undergoing therapy. They may require therapy. No, I do not. I am content with who I am. I like who I am. Even if they didn't, that's basically it. Now on to the second story. I informed my pregnant wife that I would be with my dying mother instead of her during delivery. She has now barred me from entering the birth room and we have parted ways. So let's get started. My wife is 33 and I am 36 years old. We are expecting our first child soon. My 70-year-old mother was just diagnosed with stage 4 cancer and has been in the hospital since. Doctors think she will not survive since her medicines are not working. My father died while I was young and my mother cared for me while working 2 jobs to ensure that I had a wonderful life. I believe I owe everything to my mother. I purchased her a house and everything she needed to live comfortably in her latter years. Well, since we had to struggle so hard. When I got home from work, I went to visit my mother. My wife and I were talking and she asked if you had received a call that I was in labor or that your mother was dying. Who would you pick? I told her I'd choose my mother. She asked why and I told her that I wanted to be there to say goodbye to my mother as I would never see her again. So she'd have someone there in her final moments. She became enraged and demanded, "What about her and our baby?" I told her I'd try to get there as soon as possible after my mother, but that would most likely not happen. So I told her not to worry. She was still angry and ordered me to leave the house. I left and now I'm at my mother's place, so you may read it too. I corrected everyone who said I was leaving her alone. No, I won't. She would be accompanied by her mother. She stated that she wanted her mother to join her. Yes, I was correct in abandoning my residence. It was either I left or she went, and I was not about to kick my pregnant wife out of our home. Yes, I've been there for her. I've taken time off work to console and assist her in any manner she requires during this pregnancy. Also, edit. I keep receiving the same question. Why did I leave my residence even though I was there? It was late and I didn't want my pregnant wife to be out late, but she instructed me to go, so it was either me or her. My mother is currently in the hospital. She's not at her residence. 3. I gave a lot of thinking to what you all said about how I should. However, this was her first, but she doesn't prioritize me at all. She consistently picks her sisters over me. 4th, I don't make her feel anything. 2nd, I have prioritized my wife especially during emergencies and I have done my best to console her. I've returned home and am now thinking that I don't need to apologize to you all. I genuinely do not know. Thank you to everyone who has attempted it. Relevant remarks pace #4108. You were kicked out of your residence because you answered a hypothetical question incorrectly on face value. You went to. However, it is very possible that your wife is not receiving the support and love she desires and requires at this time. Is she a needy, dominating woman, or is she just feeling ignored and hormonal? I think you should think about why she posed the question and address it. That's the problem. The hypothetical query and her reaction are just how things turn out. Get out of your mother's house and go fix it. Leaving her home alone won't help her sleep out front. If you need to bring a lot of apologies, you won't be tossed out for giving a lousy answer here. There is a sense of loss and something missing that your wife isn't experiencing and needs to as soon as possible. Figure it out and go get it for her and give her a new version of it every day for the rest of your life. They will discover what aspect of love your wife believes she lacks. Don't be UTA and sleep at mom's house. Oops. No, she isn't a needy and dominating woman. I had never considered that, but I had planned to go home today and apologize as well as ask her some questions about it. Carrie Dolt. 0/0 information. Have you skipped any crucial appointments or been less helpful around her home? Making your wife feel alone allows her to ask such inquiries. Boop. No, I've attended all but one. That's because she forgot to tell me about it. When I get home, I wash the dishes, make dinner, and clean the floor. She usually prefers to cook. I have, however, taken numerous days off to assist and soothe her. So maybe I could do more. I'm not sure what else to do, but I will ask. 7,650 is a weak position. It's a difficult decision, but I'd suggest end it if your wife has another plan for getting to the hospital and someone to support her. If not, the situation is somewhat uncertain. However, it is unusual that both will occur at the same moment. So here's hoping you don't have to decide. She does have support. Her mother and sisters live about 5 minutes away from us. They would be able to drive update #1 on January 3, 2024. Hello again, Reddit community. Some of you requested an update and here it is. I went home yesterday afternoon. She wasn't present. I presume she was at her mother's house. She returned in the evening and we discussed what had transpired. She did apologize for asking the question and said that after thinking about it, she understood my response since she would do the same. I asked her why she was asking. She claimed she didn't know and assumed I'd pick her as I usually do. I simply sort of said, okay, and moved on. I did tell her that I desire marriage counseling after or before the baby is born. She wanted to know why I informed her how I felt, but she disputed it. So I had to provide her proof. Then she started crying and became enraged, telling me to sleep in the guest room instead of kicking me out. So I suppose I won there. Anyway, she also informed me that she no longer wanted me to be present during the delivery, which I accepted. To some extent, I understand where they're coming from. I'll go into treatment as indicated, and I believe I need it. So that's it. Thank you for the advice. You all gave good and horrible advice, and I apologize if my comments came out as nasty. I'm not a very nice person until you get to know me, especially if you're accusing me of something. Relevant comments Winterworld 561, you are actually all right with not being present at your child's birth. Really? No. But it is her choice. I can't make her let me in there. Becca, you may have explained to her that it is a priority for you and that you apologize, that you were talking hypothetically, and the likelihood of your mother dying on your child's birthday is extremely low. You could have tried to show her how important it is to you. Accepting it would make me feel as if you don't care. You too. Could you have been more compassionate, accepted responsibility, and apologized to her before bringing in the marriage counseling booth? I told her that she is a priority, and she followed through. See, it is significant to me because she would do the same, and we did it all. Why do all of you want me to dispute with a pregnant woman? Sam, Bonnie, 85, please tell me you're in therapy, please. Boop, I have scheduled an appointment with one. Update 2, January 4, 2024. Good day, everyone. This is probably my final update. I read a lot of your comments and apologized, not for bringing up marriage therapy, but rather for the time. I brought it up, and I did present her documentation. She did forgive me, and warned me that I would still be unable to attend our child's birth. I told her that was fine, that I had accepted it, and that I would not contest her decision. I did tell her that I believe she and I both need some distance before the kid arrives. She agreed. I told her I was leaving, she could have the house, and she could call or text me if she needed anything. No, I'm not in my mother's house. I'm at a friend's home. He no longer lives there, but he usually rents it out to all of you and asks, why don't you kick her out? It's because I'm the sole breadwinner in the household, and I know that if I kick her out, it will be labeled financial, emotional manipulation, or even abuse. So, most of the time, it's best that I leave. Yes, I intend to return home once the baby is born, and, as someone inquired, I intend to take paternity leave. She does not know where I am. She didn't ask, so I didn't tell, mainly because her family would be knocking on my door, and I knew they'd ask, why aren't you fighting harder to get into the delivery room? I've learned that there are some things I can't control, such as people. If she doesn't want me in there, I won't be. My main example is that if I got someone pregnant in my 20s and told her to get an abortion, just because it's my baby doesn't mean I have control over what she does, so it's her body, her decision. Finally, to those who say they need more information, I'm not used to randomly talking about myself. It's been this way since I was a child. I've improved since I was a kid, but it's still a challenge. So, if you have a question, ask me a specific question, because I only answer what you ask, not the above. And let's talk about divorce. I'm concerned if she divorces me. I love her, but I can't control how she feels. I will not beg. I'll suggest that we get assistance, but if she doesn't want to, it's fine. I feel secure. This means she will receive nothing from the divorce. Does she realize that? I honestly don't know. I will do my best to answer any questions in the comments. Relevant remarks, 1 awareness, 3671 AA. But wow, such a dramatic turn of events from a hypothetical question as tweet rose, escalated very quickly. Just like right now. I don't think he'll have his wife as an emotional support when his mother dies. I hope he has a support system in place, because he will need it. Booth, that's why I'm going to therapy. I don't want to rely on my wife too much after she has the baby. 3 on 3. Annabelle Staples, can you tell me why the last line of your post is there? Certainly. She would receive nothing in the divorce. Could you expand on that a little? Booth, we have a prenup. Anything purchased prior to marriage would be mine. She had been staying at home since before we were married, so I bought the house and all of its contents before we married. So it would be a toffee swirl of 7. Have you got autism? Booth suffers from ADHD rather than autism. Spoonbills. I feel secure. This means she will receive nothing from the divorce. Does she realize that? I honestly don't know. Do you despise this woman? Is your wife carrying your child? When she's not working, she'll probably be doing primary childcare. How is she going to live? She will be a single mother, just like your mother. Do you want that for her and your children? I don't get you at all. Why are you throwing everything away? Because a first-time pregnant woman is insecure. Look, I do not intend to get divorced as one. I don't hate her. She will need to get a job, and I will most likely have to pay child support. I have no intention of getting divorced if she so desires. That is going on. I will not throw anything away. I'm just giving her space so she doesn't become stressed. If she doesn't want me in there, I won't be, and she will not receive anything. Both of the divorce statements bothered me. It sounds like she wants you to demonstrate that you genuinely want to be with her and with her in general. Maybe try harder to make that clear. Your attitude gives the impression that you don't care. Also, why would you want her to receive nothing from the divorce? She is your child's mother. Oops. That was decided before we were married. When we got engaged, she chose to be a house fiancée rather than a housewife, so I wanted to be safe in case she ever checked. I've heard so many stories. My attitude toward her. I tried to show her that I care, but she may not see it that way. I don't know how she sees it. Yes, I know she is the mother of my child. Final update. February 5, 2024. Hello, everyone. I have both good and bad news, so let me start with the good. My wife gave birth to a baby on January 26. That is a girl, and I adore her. I wanted to name her after my mother, but we reached an agreement and her middle name is my mother's name. I'm going to be asked if I was in the delivery room. I was not. I asked, but I learned, and she said she had already told her sister and she couldn't hurt my feelings. Okay. By that time, I had stopped caring so much. Unfortunately, my mother died. She died just a week before my baby was born. A sizable number of her friends attended the funeral, and going back a sentence, I mentioned that I had stopped caring a lot. She declined to attend the funeral. She made stupid excuses, and I simply said, forget it. It was pleasant, though. I'm upset that she wasn't there when I needed her, so I haven't talked to her much, so I don't yell at her. We talk about baby in her, but otherwise we don't talk. I'll discuss marriage counseling in a few weeks, but for now, I'm going to enjoy and love my baby. Let's get started on the next story. We had only been married 2 years. Beth, my wife, was initially wary of me. She had heard things about me that she disliked. Sorry. Hi, my name is Tom. When we started dating, she discovered that most of what she had heard was not true. I was the jealous type. Beth is absolutely stunning, is the most appropriate way to describe her. We spent a lot of time dancing in clubs and dance halls while dating. Beth had a lot of admirers. All of my friends wanted to dance with her, as did a lot of other guys. Many times when she danced with men, I had no idea he and I would vanish. I wasn't there for a chat. I would tell them to back off, or else the majority of them would return for another dance with Beth. I observed them on the floor. They all made the same advances on her. I was glad we went to 6 different locations to dance. Anyway, I would give them a second warning and no third. This handsome young man asked Beth to dance. He tried it on alongside her. When she returned to me, she was aware that I was angry with him. I tapped him on the shoulder and asked him to step outside. When we arrived outside, he had a broken dot all over his white shirt. I would return to Beth for a dance. I didn't know the other two. I asked Beth to dance. They both tried it on. I told them to back down, or else. These 2 guys returned for additional dances with Beth. The first of the 2 people sat down. "Don't come back," I said. The other one had Beth on the dance floor. After the dance, Beth was far away from us. "Don't come back," I said. Both of them asked Beth to dance, and both ended up with blood on their white shirts. Beth noticed 2 of them with blood all over their shirts. She looked at me and realized what I had done to them. Yes, even before our marriage. Beth noticed I had a jealous streak when we were dating. We've broken up a few times, only for a week. Yes, it's all due to my jealousy, and we were both relieved that we could reunite so quickly. Yes, when a guy tried it on Beth, he was told to go somewhere else. I'd lost count before we married. How many times did I go out with them? Yes, I was the jealous type. Beth was acutely aware of this. Beth was willing to put up with my possessiveness and jealousy. She and I had fallen in love with each other. We dated for 8 months before getting married. One person was not present at my brother's wedding. He hadn't met Beth. Beth declined to dance with men I didn't know. She didn't want to hurt me. She hoped my jealousy would simply go away. I must say that it did. Update. After 2 years of marriage, I was able to control my jealousy. We still went out dancing, and my friends joined Beth. All 3 of them knew I was extremely fortunate to marry Beth. Beth would still dance with strangers if she knew I might be angry with them. Beth was well aware that I was madly in love with her and would do anything for her. So there was nothing between us. We'd have parties at her and my friends' houses before returning to our own. Beth would kiss my friends, and I would do the same with their wives. It was just a friendly kiss. Nothing else. Beth changed jobs 3 times in the last year and was content with her current position. I had a job that took me away from home. They were short journeys. My brother worked on cargo ships, and so did I. Beth went out with her friends 2 or 3 times per week. We had a lot of sex when she returned home. She occasionally comes home. She had a headache due to the loud music. But the next night, everything was back to normal. She was now able to work from home. However, when she was not out with the girls, our sex began to decline. Our sex life was now non-existent. She dressed to show off her body to me and other men. My jealousy returned, and I realized she was seeing someone. I had to learn that the ship I served on was being refitted, so I was able to watch her leave work. When she got home from work, she was with the same man. He was always 10 steps behind her. They stayed at the same hotel, and it was always a brief section after work. When she was home, I followed him home. He showed up and stayed for hours. My jealousy was spiraling out of control. However, if she was cheating on me, they would both pay the consequences. I spoke with the hotel's manager, telling him what I thought my wife was up to, and I requested that they be recorded. He informed me that they had a room set up for that kind of request. I gave him a picture of Beth, and the staff was informed that it would be placed behind the desk the next time they came in. When she entered, they had to use room 101. When Beth went to work, I set up a recording system in her bedroom. That week, I was ready to kick both her and him. My jealousy was skyrocketing. I started making plans. I was having dribs and drabs of sex with her, but nothing like before. My ship will be ready for its next voyage in 9 days. My brother was at home tonight. His ship had been in for weeks of maintenance. I approached him and asked him to do me a favor. I told him that Beth was cheating on me and I wanted vengeance. I asked if he could do my monthly trip in 9 days. What is there in it for me? He said, because we're brothers, you can live in my house and screw her, but she'll recognize it's not you, I explained. He replied, no, she will not deal. He stated, we will change places on Friday night. I have a week to sort everything out. I said, you just screw her. Beth was aware that I would be departing on my month-long trip in a week. I needed to find out what was going on. I had discovered his name, so I called him and asked for him, but he was screwing Beth. I explained that I was his brother and would be in town next week. That is what the girl told me. Sorry, he won't be around next week. He is on vacation for 1 month. I thanked her, waited about 10 minutes and then called back. A different girl answered. I explained that I was Beth's brother and would be in town next week. I wished to see her. It worked perfectly. The girl told me Beth was on vacation for a month, so while I was gone for a month at sea, they would be screwing all day. I called a friend who was having trouble going to the toilet. He'd been given oral bowel cleansing solutions for months. I asked him what they did and he told me that if I took them that day, the next day I would be empty after going to the loo. If you take them that day, you will be empty the next day after using the restroom. He presented them to me. So I asked him if he had any to spare. He gifted me 3. He told me that he doesn't use them all the time because they make him weak. My brother had a good time screwing my wife. On Friday we met in a pub. Brother, she has one good screw and she went crazy twice. He said, thank you. I owe you something. I spoke. On Friday before I left for home, I poured oral bowel cleansing into his kettle. I had done the same with him. On Thursday night, there was only cleaning fluid in our kettle for the bath. I was in his house and using his kettle. I poured oral bowel cleansing fluid. My brother took my place aboard my ship. Beth bolted out the door and made her way to his house. That was what I had hoped for. I waited for about 30 minutes before entering his house. I entered the bedroom with my German Luger in one hand and a whole doll in the other, complete with 2 sets of rented bondage straps. I'm having a good time and waving my Luger at him. Beth exclaims, he made me do it. I adore you. I gave her a hard look. Base remains where you are, waving my Luger at him, dropping the entire doll on the bed, unzipping it, and emptying the straps on the bed. Wife fastened the straps around his wrists and ankles and tied them to the bed. Now, add the other 4 to yours. Start by tying your ankles. She did as she was told. Then I secured the wrist straps to the bed. I went to the bottom of the bed and it looked good. They exchanged looks. He inquired, what are you going to do? That's simple to answer, I replied, since you requested that you book a month of work, we'll be screwing for a month. While I was away, I asked, how do you know that? He said, I made 2 phone calls and was told by 2 girls that we will be together for 30 days and nights. I said, you cannot abandon us like this. He said something and I laughed, what if we need the restroom? He said, you've been on the loo for 2 days and she's been there for 1. I don't think we need to be concerned about it. I explained that we needed to drink. He responded, no, you don't. And if you don't stop talking, I will gag you. I explained that I brought a TV and a recording player into the bedroom and set it up so that they could both see it. I went to record at the hotel. Take some time to watch this, I said as I walked around his house, turning off all of his radiators and increasing the temperature on his boiler. I entered his garage and there was a van. My plan had changed. When they requested a drink, I gave them one of those wet pads to moisten their mouths. They asked if we could have something to eat. No, we're going to wet the bed. Can we use the loo? They replied, no, wet your bed. I found an electric heater and plugged it into the bedroom to wet the bed. Can we use the loo? They replied, no, wet your bed. I found an electric heater, plugged it into the bedroom and turned it up. Could you please turn down the heat? They replied, no. As one recording came to an end, another began. They were drenched in sweat. I didn't really care. Update 1. I used his van over several weeks. Everything he owned was taken, including the tip. The house was bare except for the bed they were both on, the TV and recorder in the bedroom, and a chair. Time was running out and they were both exhausted. On Saturday, my brother was at home. The last thing I did was untie Beth, carry her to the van and accompany her to the emergency room. Then I transported her to the hospital and laid her down. I informed them that she was sick. They wanted to know more about me. I told them I had to go get my child. I'll be back soon. They wanted to know more about me. I told them I had to go get my child. I'll be back soon. I jumped in the van and drove away. I returned to his location, untied him and dragged him to the van. I drove him to the other side of town, pulled up outside, and Ian pushed the basket out. I returned to his house, loaded the bed into the van and removed the television and other belongings, driving it to open ground. I set fire to the van just as I did to his car 2 weeks earlier. I went back to his house and looked everywhere. Off to the docks to pick up my brother. He was going away for 2 long weeks of sun. I made the payment. The next day I reported that my wife was missing. The next day, the police arrived with a knock on the door. Thank God you found my wife, I asked. Sir, could we come in? They stated that they wanted to question me and I understood why. Sir, we spoke with your wife. They said good. Where is she now? I really want to go to her right now. I asked, where have you been for the past month, sir? They said, well, now that you've spoken with my wife, she will have to speak with you. I was on a ship for the past month, sir. That is not what your wife has told us. They said, but she knows what ship I was on. She's told us you've been trying to date her. They asked, how could I have tried to date her? Sir, she has told us that you have kept her strapped to a bed for a month. They said, officer, I've been at sea for the past month. You need to check with the ship. I asked, sir, what the ship's name was. Where exactly is it? At anchor. What is the name of the captain? They said I named my shipmates, the captain's name, the ship's name. And what dock was it on? Can I go see my wife? Sir, I told you not to go see her until we told you. They stated that the following day they would knock on the door. Sir, we've been informed that you attempted to date a man last month. They explained, officer, I've been at sea for the past month. That's what I told you yesterday. I said, officer, have you spoken with the captain and my shipmates yet? I replied, sir, that I told you yesterday. I said, officer, have you spoken with the captain and my shipmates yet? Sir, I said, we've done it. They remarked, in that case, how could I have tried to dock my wife and this man? Who is he? I spoke. I was shouting at them, angry. Officer, when will I be able to see my wife? I want to know what she is up to. I asked, and what has this man been telling you about me? So who is he and what's his name? Just a minute. What does this man have to do with my wife? I told you, sir, to sit down. They asked, why should I sit down? What is going on? I responded, you've told me in the last few days. My wife accuses me of trying to date her and now a man. I would like to know what this man's name is. I asked, officer, what was going on? I said, sir, we might as well tell you that your wife and this man are having an affair. They claimed I screamed at them after falling back in my chair. Officer, are you saying my wife was cheating on me with this man? Yes, sir, the two-timing lying bitch. I spoke. Officer, have you confirmed that I was on the ship, yes or no? I said, sir, it has been confirmed that you were on the ship for that month. They said, "In that case, where is my wife? I'd like to see her right now." I told you, sir, that we don't think the ship will arrive that month. They asked, "Where is my wife in that case?" "I'd like to see her right now." I said, "Sir, we don't think that's a good idea." They asked, "Where is she?" "I really want to see her right away." I stated that they had no choice but to let me see my wife. They informed me where she was. I was out the door before they arrived. I made it to my hospital room. The doctor and nurse informed me that she was too weak to see me. I pushed them out of the way before entering the room. Her mother was in the room. I was just looking at her, then I focused on Beth. I didn't look at her. I gave a glare. "Right, Beth, what's this? You informed the police I tried to penalize you, and who exactly? Are you having an affair with this man?" I spoke. She started crying. Her mother then said to Beth, "You are having an affair." Beth gave a nod to her mother. Her mother stood up and walked out the door, saying, "You are not a daughter. Also, there is an affair." Beth gave a nod to her mother. Her mother stood up and walked out the door, saying, "You are not my daughter." Tears streamed down her face. I was as cold as an icy bath. "Who is he?" "You can keep him. I'll see my lawyer tomorrow. We are divorcing as soon as possible." I spoke. This is the final update. Over the course of the next week, Beth was served with divorce papers late the next day in the hospital. Beth wanted to explain. It was certainly not too late. She cheated on me and was found out. She assumed it was because the police had informed me, but this was not the case. He got out of the hospital and went home. He was about to receive a shock. His car was not present. The house was vacant. He looked in the garage. It was completely empty. He possessed nothing. He was only wearing the clothes he was standing in. He reported it to the cops and said I had removed his belongings. The police returned to my house, and we went over everything again. 2 weeks later, she was released from the hospital and eager to return home. Yes, I let her enter the house. We slept in different rooms. The divorce was progressing nicely. She emerged from her bedroom, all dressed up. "Where are you heading?" "Going out with the girls." "So we're back on the old story." "So what?" "Where are you heading?" "Going out with the girls." "So we're back on the old story." "So what's the girl's name?" She did not reply. "In that case, go pack. I want you to leave tonight." "But I don't have any place to stay." "Yes, you have. I'm with the girls." I really feel sorry for him. I am going out with the girls. "So who exactly are they?" "And I'll deceive them." She turned around and changed clothes. Then she approached where I was seated. We did not speak for a while. "Prepare and go see the best. I may as well inform you. Everything is over with him." "So you found someone else to screw you?" Her head dropped down and she began to cry. "Will you let me speak without becoming upset?" "Go ahead. I am nothing more. I'm sure you won't believe. But he duped me into having sex with him. But I continue to love you. I was only having sex with him. Please trust me." Is sex being passed around? 3 months of having sex. Who is kidding? Who? I'm sick of you, Beth. I want you to leave. Live your own life without me. Can I stay here until I find somewhere to live? I couldn't leave her with nowhere to live. I was a soft touch for her. The divorce was eventually finalized and she moved out. A few years had passed and I was out with my brother, sharing a meal with 2 women. Beth walked in with a man. When they took their seats, Beth noticed me. She came over but she didn't see my twin brother. When he turns around, Beth's mouth drops wide open. She was unsure which one of us was her ex. "Hello, Beth. I am your ex, you bastard. The police never informed you that I was having an affair. You were aware of this before, right? Beth, you knew that last week before I strapped you and him to the bed. At that point, the girls rose and departed. Well, it was my brother who cheated you and he said you were crazy in bed. You're based. You had known all along. Cheers to you and screw him over there. Beth looked over at my brother. He raises his glass, says cheers and screws him over there. Beth looked over at my brother. He raises his glass and says cheers, Tom. Can I talk to your ex? Kindly do. My brother turned to Beth. That last night you were wild and on fire. My brother said to her, this is what you said. That was great. I want it every night from now on. Beth looked at him and shot him across the face and stormed off saying bastards. I was in a pub one night and then walked the beast from 2 years before he had on his arm a striking woman. He was at the bar trying to get served. I went over to the woman saying, if you are married, he will screw you and then dump you. How do you know that? She said to me that Bast broke up my marriage. He will do the same to you. She looked at me. Then she said he has not screwed me and I am not married. Will you take me home? I took her home that night and it lasted in years of wedlock. Thank you for listening to today's stories. If you enjoyed the story, please like and subscribe if you have not already. If you have a story to tell me about your own or another person's situation, please do not hesitate to contact me. Please take care.